Hello sports fans, it's me, Sportsman Z, Bob Zolke, here with another video, and it is now September, so we are just over a month away from the beginning of the NHL season. And with that in mind, I am going to do my predictions. This video is going to be the Eastern Conference predictions, and then the follow-up video a little later will be the Western Conference. So I will do a quick analysis of where I think the teams are going to finish this year in the NHL, and ask for comment on whether you think I'm right or wrong, especially since a lot of these are, and especially in the Eastern Conference, there is a jumble of teams that right near the bottom of the playoff qualifiers and the top of the teams that may be out of the playoffs that could go any way. So anyway, I got my board set up here now. The board is set up so that I could do the finishes for the Metropolitan Division and the Atlantic Division, but I'm not setting it up that way. What I'm doing is I'm doing the outside here is the predicted finish for the playoff qualifiers, and then the inside row is the teams that missed the playoffs. So now, as you can see right here at the top, I've got the Tampa Bay Lightning. I don't think there's really much that needs to be said about that. The Tampa Bay Lightning finished last year with in a historic way and had a lot of points, so I don't see them not being able to finish at the top of the division again. But they definitely want to work on being eliminated in the first round of the playoffs. Second, I've got the Washington Capitals, as you can see there. The Capitals are still a good team, although they do have a closing window because this is Holtby's last year. So they have some urgency, and they've also had Brooks Orpik retire. So they do have some urgency, but I still think that they're probably the second best team in this division, even with their losses and what little that they may have picked up. The next team, as you can see, is Toronto. Now, Toronto I've got down here below the Capitals because they haven't signed Mitch Marner yet, and it doesn't look like, it either doesn't look like they will, or if they do, it's going to be later in the season. And that's gonna hold them back a little bit. But they still have a high-octane offense with Tavares and Nylander being re-signed last year. So they've still got a good team, but they have to capitalize because they have to get out of the chute really well. If they don't have Marner, they have to try to steal a few games without Marner so that they can stay in contention and up near the top of the division. The next team, you can see Boston. The Boston Bruins, of course, last year they were in the Stanley Cup and lost to the St. Louis Blues. So obviously they are a good returning core, although they are getting older. The guys like Malkin and even Sidney Crosby are that's Malkin and and their supporting cast. They are aging. They are an old team, and so their window is closing very quickly. And they're one of the teams that could, even if they play below their abilities, could be out of this top qualifying crew. And then the next team I've got in line is the as you can see there is the Penguins, and that's the team with Crosby. And Crosby and his crew also are not getting any younger. So and they got eliminated in 4 straight last year by the Islanders. So that had to sting a little bit and is probably a precursor of potentially bad times on the horizon. The next team in line would be the Carolina Hurricane. Now, they probably aren't going to have Justin Williams back because I think he's retiring. Although he may come back, it's unknown. But really, even if he doesn't, their only key losses were him and their backup goalie, McElhaney. But they still have Mrazek in net, and they still have the crew of most of the players that got them to where they were last year. And, with their Storm Surge celebrations, they're having a lot of fun there in Carolina. And they are a young team, so I think they're resilient, and they have a really good shot at being one of the teams that qualifies for the playoffs, I think. Then the next team you can see, we've got the Florida Panthers. Now, the Panthers, even though they didn't make the playoffs last year, I think they'll make the playoffs this year just by adding Bobrovsky in the net. Because really last year they had a good offense. They had one of the better offenses in the Eastern Conference. They have a defense that can hold its own. They just had terrible goaltending last year. Luongo in his last year was showing the signs of age and wasn't as good as he had been, earlier in his career, obviously. So that's going to be a big difference for them, and I think it probably puts them over the hump and gets them into the playoffs. And then, as you can see, the last qualifier for the playoffs I have is the Islanders. And I'm an Islanders fan, so that I'm not wearing my Islanders jersey because I wore it for a previous hockey hockey video, so I wanted to change it up a little bit, and I put on the Capitals for this one. But the Islanders, I think, and this is, again, like I said at the top of the video, the teams at the bottom of the qualifying and the teams at the top of the elimination could go any way. So we'll put the Islanders there because they made the playoffs last year. Trotz is a great coach, and they swept the Penguins in the first round of the playoffs last year. So and most of their key players are coming back. They don't have Robin Lehner coming back. He went to the Blackhawks because the Islanders let him walk. Probably thinking that last year's great performance by him was a fluke. We'll see if that's the case or not, but they still do have Greiss, and they signed Varlamov from Colorado. So that duo should be good enough to get the job done. Although last year the Islanders did lead the league in goals allowed. They had the best goals allowed in the entire league, in the entire NHL. I don't see that happening again, so they are going to have to score some more points than they did on offense last year. But with another year of seasoning and getting used to the system that Trotz runs, they should score more goals this year. So it might be a zero-sum trade-off there. So now, as you can see, with the top of the non-qualifiers, I have the Montreal Canadiens. And I know Canadiens fans hate this. And they barely missed the playoffs last year. I think they were only like 3 points out of the playoffs last year. So they have the talent, but they also have Carey Price, who's injury-prone. And they don't have any reliable backups. They keep bringing in backup goalies that are veterans. I think they brought in this year Reimer. I'm not sure. But they keep bringing in, Kincaid. They brought in Kincaid, the former New Jersey Devil goalie. But they keep bringing in veteran backups who are, on their last legs. And really what they should be doing is deciding on one of their goalies from the minor leagues and get him up there as the backup and get him some playing time so that he becomes a viable NHL goalie to trade off with Carey Price. Because really right now, for them to make the playoffs, I think Carey Price has to foot a large part of the load, and he's just not at the point in his career now where he's able to do that without injury. So I think they have a problem there, and as their winger Domi said, if they could get just a little bit more from everybody, they would make the playoffs. Well, that's easier said than done. So as you can see, the next team I've got here is the New Jersey Devils. Now again, the New Jersey Devils, really, and the Canadians could finish in the qualifying spot, but for the playoffs. But they, I think I see them still as a borderline team. Now last year they missed the playoffs and they didn't have a full year of Taylor Hall. Supposedly they will this year, or hopefully for them they will this year, have a full year of Taylor Hall. And they did sign PK Subban this year. So we'll see if that helps. I think it's not going to help enough, but maybe it does. You never know. And I think Reimer probably went to New Jersey as the backup for Schneider. But anyway, they're probably not quite there yet. They probably have some work to do still. Philadelphia, under them, the Philadelphia Flyers, Carter Hart in goal seems to be their answer now at goalie, and their backup is going to be the guy from Buffalo. I forget his name. But anyway, he's coming back. He's had injury problems, though, in the past. And so, again, if they have a revolving door behind Carter Hart, that's going to be a problem. They also signed Kevin Hayes to an extremely high contract for someone of Kevin Hayes' talent, but still, he should bring something to the table and help them a little bit. But again, like with New Jersey, I just don't see that being enough. Then the next team, you got the Rangers. Now, the Rangers, they did sign Panarin, but they were really not very good at all last year. So if you sign Panarin, how much is that going to help? Probably not enough to get them into the playoffs. They have to play who has been their backup goalie, Georgiev. I think they have to play him more or get some young goalie in there to help out with Lundqvist, because Lundqvist is getting older and he can't shoulder as much of the load anymore. And the NHL is going now to a more of a system where the starter only plays like 50 games, 55 games, and the backup plays 20 to 25. So and that's definitely what Lundqvist needs, is somebody to share the load with him. So they've got to factor him in, and then how good is he going to be, and how much of a difference is that going to make with Panarin in how they perform. So under the Rangers, I have the Buffalo Sabres. And the Sabres, they always tease their fans, or they definitely did last year when they went on that real winning streak in November, I think it was, where they won like, what was it, 12 straight games or 18 straight? I don't know what it was, but it was incredible. And people started to think, okay, Buffalo, they're for real now. And then they collapsed coming down the stretch. And they have Ullmark and Carter Hutton in goal, and that didn't really work out very well for them last year. They both started out well, and then they faded coming down the stretch drive. And probably neither one is really a full-time goaltender, and that's also going to be an issue for Buffalo. And unless their offense, Eichel and all of his supporting cast really step it up, and I mean really step it up, they're probably not making the playoffs. So after that, you can see I'm finishing up with the Columbus Blue Jackets and Detroit. Now, Columbus last year barely edged out Montreal to get into the playoffs, and they had Bobrovsky and Panarin, and this year they don't have them. So figure it out. It's probably not going to be a formula for making the playoffs for Columbus. And Detroit is just completely rebuilding, so there's no way that they're making it. So what do you guys think? Do you like that list? Do you think that there are some teams that I have, especially at the top of the non-qualifiers, who probably could edge their way in and edge one of those teams out? Because I certainly think that's possible. And let me know what you think. Again, give me a like if you like the video. If you want to see whatever else you want to see, let me know. Subscribe to the channel, and you can get more good content like this, and you'll be notified when it comes out. And for right now, it's me, Sportsman Z, Bob Zolke, signing off, finishing the Eastern Conference, and a little later we'll do the Western Conference.